What is going on, guys? I hope you're doing very well. I'm back here today with my Premier League predictions for Game Week 35, starting off with Newcastle at home to Liverpool in the early kickoff. Now, Newcastle are in fantastic form, so this isn't going to be an easy game for Liverpool. They are currently second, 1 point behind Man City, so they are still very much in the title race, but like I said, this is not going to be an easy game for Liverpool. Newcastle have played 15 games in the league since they lost at home to Cambridge in the FA Cup, and they've won 10 of them. So Newcastle are in excellent form, and last time out, at home, they beat Palace 1-0, and I think the game before that, they beat Leicester 2-1. So, like I said, Newcastle are in fantastic form. Last time out, they comfortably battered Norwich 3-0, and I think they'll perform well. I think this will be a very hard game for Liverpool, arguably one of Liverpool's hardest league games from now until the end of the season. But having said that, Liverpool have such a fantastic squad full of world-class players, and they've just been so adaptable in terms of playing midweek in the Champions League at such a high level and then playing so well in the league at the weekend. So I don't think this is going to be any different, but I don't think it'll be easy for Liverpool. But I'm going to say Liverpool will win 2-0. I'm going to go Liverpool 2, Newcastle 0. Next game, Aston Villa versus Norwich. Of course, some might say the Dean Smith derby. Dean Smith coming back to Villa Park after he was sacked as Aston Villa manager earlier in the season after 5 straight defeats. Now, Aston Villa, they're actually not doing that well. They're 15th in the table, although they've only played 32 games. So they have 2 games in hand over the likes of Southampton, Brentford, Brighton, and even Newcastle. So Aston Villa can still pick up a lot of points from now until the end of the season, and they'll want to make sure they put in a good performance after their not a very good run from Aston Villa. They have not won in their last 5 games, and 4 of them have been defeats after that. But their last game was a very scrappy 0-0 draw away to Leicester. So Villa, obviously Steven Gerrard, they'll want to win at home. As for Norwich, they are all but relegated. And actually, I think mathematically, they could be relegated. That could be absolutely confirmed if I think Aston Villa win, and then Burnley win and Everton win. But yeah, Norwich, if they lose, they'll almost mathematically be relegated. They almost are mathematically relegated now. So they'll just want to prepare next season and build a squad of players that are going to be there next season. So I'm imagining the likes of Omar Bamadeli at centre-back, Kieran Dowell in attacking midfield, and Rowe, all of them, they should be getting game time in my opinion, because they're the sort of players that Norwich will play next season in the Championship. The key thing that Norwich fans will be thinking about in terms of the playing squad is whether Pukki's staying, because he's been their talisman for over 3 seasons now. He's been their main guy, and if he's going to leave next season, Norwich are going to have a massive task of replacing him. So Norwich will just be preparing for next season. Aston Villa, they need to get back to winning form, because conceivably, you know, if they finish the season 16th or, I mean, God forbid, 17th or in the relegation zone, they'll feel they've had a really disappointing season. But I imagine even if they don't have a good end to the season, Steven Gerrard will still be the manager next season. So Aston Villa, they'll want to put in a good performance. And to be fair, I do think they'll win comfortably. I know Villa haven't won in 5 games, but Norwich just are not a very good team, and they almost have one eye on the Championship already. So I'm going to say Aston Villa win this game 3-0. Then we have Southampton versus Crystal Palace. 2 teams that a lot of people will expect it to be higher in the table, but they're actually 13th and 14th respectively, and it's a little bit disappointing from both their point of views, given that, like I said, they've both played really good football at times. I think from a Southampton point of view, it seems like when the football's good, they look fantastic, but when something's slightly off, they just seem to completely collapse, and that was evident given they were thrashed against Leicester, I believe, this season, and Man United as well. So, oh no, Chelsea, that was it. Chelsea, they lost 6-0 at home to Chelsea, and that could have been more. So with Southampton, they kind of play all or nothing sort of football, and they have looked really good at times, but at other times they've just completely collapsed. They'll be without Livramento, which is a big loss, so you'd probably expect Kyle Walker-Peters to play right back, and then Peru to play left back. As for Crystal Palace, they've come off the back of a disappointing result against Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final, and then a draw at home to Leeds, where Palace were the better team, but to me, anyway, I don't think they did enough to convincingly win the game or earn 3 points by any means. So Palace will need to improve their performance, and I think this could be a really entertaining game, lots of goals. So I'm going to say it is going to be 2-2. Then we have Watford versus Burnley. For Watford, this is absolute last chance saloon in my opinion. I mean, and I say that though, they're only 1 point above Norwich. I just think the thing with Watford is that they have been putting in slightly better performances than Norwich. And also, Watford's fixtures are relatively kind, apart from Chelsea away. But the fact they got hammered against Leeds and then they lost against Brentford is quite a concern. The thing with the Leeds result is because Leeds had scored early on, Leeds could just sit back and attack Watford on the counter-attack, and that's what they did, and that's how Leeds got their final 2 goals. And then with the Brentford game at home, they were drawing 1-1 for a lot of it, and King and Loser missed massive chances. And you think if Loser had just hit the ball in the open goal, then Watford could have come away with a win. But then they conceded a goal in the last minute against Pontus Jansson, and that's really damaged Watford. And like I said, Watford have to win this game if they're going to stay up. It's completely last chance saloon for them, which will suit Burnley because it gives Burnley the kind of freedom to either sit back and play on the counter-attack, or, like they've been doing in the last few games, actually keep the ball for longer periods of the match and be a bit more creative. So Burnley have got a lot of options in that sense, and they have more freedom than Watford because, I mean, Burnley do have to win the game in the sense that it's probably Burnley's easiest fixture, but it's not a complete must-win, unlike for Watford. So, with that being said, I can see it being a draw for a long spell of the game, and then Watford kind of panicking and starting to think, God, we have to go for it. So I think that will play to Burnley's hands, and I can see them scoring on the counter-attack. So I'm going to say Burnley win the game 2-0. Then we have Wolves versus Brighton. Now, Wolves are back off a really disappointing performance and result against Burnley and Newcastle, to be fair. So they'll want to keep their European hopes alive by winning against Brighton. And Brighton, they've had a really mixed season. You know, some spells in the season they've played very badly and not won. Other spells in the season they've performed very well and picked up the results. And then sometimes they've performed well, created loads of chances, and then just not picked up the results. However, recently, Brighton have been picking up the results. So they were terrible against Tottenham at home, losing 2-0, but then they were amazing against Norwich, and they should have won that game 3-4-0, but they drew 0-0. Then they beat Arsenal away from home, and Tottenham away from home. I mean, they lost to Man City 3-0, that was almost expected. But then they drew 2-2 against Southampton and created some good chances, especially their second goal. I know it was an own goal, but it was a lovely move from Brighton. So they'll come to Wolves thinking they could easily perform well and get the results. It's a tough one to call. Wolves are very good defensively, and Brighton don't take their chances. So on the basis of that, throughout this season, I'm going to say Brighton will be the better team in this game. I think they'll create more chances than Wolves, but I think because Wolves are strong defensively and Brighton don't take their chances, I'm going to say Wolves win the game 1-0. Then at 5:30, we've got a massive game at Ellen Road. Leeds versus Man City. I'm really looking forward to this one. Should be a really entertaining game. Of course, Man City, top of the league. They'll be wanting to win to make sure they're still top of the league. And as for Leeds, they're right down there in 16th. So they need to make sure they pick up the 3 points to keep safe. And although Leeds might think, oh, Man City at home, that's a really difficult game, Man City going to Ellen Road will be thinking, actually, no, this is a really difficult game. So both teams will be thinking this is a tough fixture, and I think there'll be goals, but with Leeds are still quite an open team, especially defensively. Not as much as they were under Bielsa, and to be fair, they've kept back-to-back clean sheets and have only conceded 4 goals in their last 5 games, which for Leeds standard in the Premier League over the last couple of seasons, that's pretty good going. So Leeds have improved defensively, but this is Man City we're talking about. Such a strong team. They've scored 80 goals. So I think there'll be goals in this game, but I think Man City will score more. So I'm going to say Man City will win the game 4-2. Then on Sunday we have Everton at home against Chelsea. Oh, another massive game. Frank Lampard, of course, manager of Everton, welcoming Chelsea to Goodison Park. And I think this could be a really, really good atmosphere at Goodison Park. And to be fair, if Chelsea play the way they did against West Ham, I'm so confident Everton will win, because Chelsea was so lethargic, had no energy. It just seemed like the final game of the season or a pre-season friendly from Chelsea's point of view. And I do think that was in large part because of their Champions League exit against Real Madrid and the manner of which they got knocked out, because they played so well at the Bernabeu and still got knocked out. So I think the Chelsea players are still down about that. But also there's still rumblings on off the pitch in terms of the Chelsea takeover not quite happening just yet. And Rudiger now confirming that he's going to leave, who's been arguably not just their best defender of the season, but arguably their player of the season. So the fact that Rudiger's leaving as well, it just seems like there's just a bit of discontent at Chelsea. So on that basis, and on the basis that Frank Lampard is the Everton manager, and I think the crowd will be well up for this game, I'm going to say Everton will win. You know, Everton haven't drawn many games this season, only 5, which is only worse by Watford. So I think Everton are going to win. I just have a feeling they're going to do it. I think they're going to win 2-1. Then we have Spurs at home against Leicester. Of course, Spurs are competing for the top 4, and Leicester, they've got small ambitions of finishing in the European places in terms of the Premier League. But I think realistically, the only way Leicester are going to play in Europe next season is if they win the Europa League Conference, similar to West Ham in a way. So I think Leicester will almost rest a few players in this game against Spurs, because on Thursday, Leicester have got that massive game in Europe. I believe they're against Roma. So Leicester will be focusing that more probably than Spurs away. So I can see Spurs doing well, and I think they will comfortably win. I'm going to say 3-0, just because Leicester as well are very poorly defensively in terms of their set pieces. So I'm going to say Spurs are going to win that game 3-0. Then we have West Ham at home against Arsenal. Now, when West Ham played Chelsea, West Ham rested a number of different players, and I don't think that will change against Arsenal at home, given that West Ham have that massive game on Thursday against Frankfurt at home, and then after Arsenal, they go to Germany in the second leg. So I think West Ham are going to rest a number of players against Arsenal, but also West Ham will have no senior centre-backs available because they're either all injured or suspended, like Craig Dawson. So I'll be stunned if West Ham get anything from this game. As for Arsenal, I think a few weeks ago they would have thought that this fixture looked really difficult, especially off the back against losses to Crystal Palace, Brighton, and also, who else did they lose to? Southampton, of course. But then after beating Chelsea and Man United, they'll be a lot more confident going into this game, and even more so given what I just said with West Ham's horrific issues defensively in terms of injuries and suspensions, and also given that West Ham may even rest a few of their attacking players. So I think West Ham will put in a valiant effort and perform well, because David Moyes has got this team playing so well at such a high level. He deserves a massive credit. He's well in for the running for manager of the season, so it'll be no shame for West Ham if they rest a few players against Arsenal. So I think Arsenal are going to win. I'm going to say 3-1. West Ham will nick a goal, but I think Arsenal will win comfortably. Then finally, Man United at home to Brentford. Now, Man United in 6th, they've got a massive, massive task of finishing in the Champions League spot. They play Chelsea at home and then Brentford at home. You imagine if they don't pick up a minimum of 4 points, they'll almost certainly be out of the race for the top 4. So not a very good season for Man United at all. They'll almost certainly be now looking towards next season with a new manager in charge and probably an overhaul of different players. As for Brentford, they can go into this game relatively well relaxed. They're comfortably safe. They're 12th in the Premier League. A phenomenal effort from them. I did think at the beginning of the season they would stay up, but how comfortably they've stayed up has been brilliant. And I think Eriksen, since his arrival, he's been a massive boost for them. I think in all of his 5 starts, Brentford have won 4 of those games and drawn 1, which was at home against Tottenham, in which Brentford were actually the better team. So Brentford have had a phenomenal season. They can go into this game very relaxed, and I think they'll perform well. But just because it's Man United at home, they've got the likes of Ronaldo and Rashford and Fernandes to bail them out somewhat. So I think Brentford will score, but I'm going to say Man United will win 2-1. So that's my predictions for this game week. It's going to be very interesting to find out what's going to happen. I'm especially looking forward to games like Leeds versus Man United and Everton Chelsea. So it should be a really entertaining weekend of Premier League football. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Thank you.